there's still a lot of speculation as to exactly why that happened, as to why President Mubarak possibly didn't step down sooner, as to why he may not have fled the country. Many people suggest that some people blame him for what's going on. The Mubarak family. It still remains to be seen exactly why that is. But it is really shocking because Mubarak really believed that it would come down to this. And in the months since he stepped down and since he was forced to leave office, even though he was facing these charges, nobody thought, or many people didn't think that they would actually get to this stage and see him in that white prisoner's uniform with his sons facing these charges in such a dramatic fashion in that courtroom here in Egypt.
The minds of ordinary Egyptians down forever in the history books on the modern Arab region.
Well, you would believe that that drama that we're seeing right now isn't even the real drama that is going to be setting in as soon as the trial actually begins. What we are seeing is the pre-trial administrative motions that are taking place. There was the clarification of who was defending whom, but also on Tahrir Square, back by we are seeing Mubarak on trial right now. He is also being charged with the murder and the killing, or ordering the killing of some 840 protesters who died during those demonstrations that took place in the Egyptian capital. Again, as we're seeing, I guess the paperwork is done. Then, of course, the actual Mubarak dynasty, we're seeing Terence. Gamal was the heir apparent who was seen to take over from his father and also standing trial alongside his father, who is lying on a stretcher. Very dramatic scenes that we probably wouldn't have imagined, and probably Egyptians wouldn't have imagined. And it would be interesting to see what other leaders within the Arab listen in on this trial.
Outside the courtroom, parts of Cairo, would you please, at least in the next session, they should be allowed in the courtroom, and to establish a certain procedure. Yes, yes, okay. Fine, we'll consider that. Sit down. Sit down. Please sit down so that we can start. Please sit down so we can start. Sit down, gentlemen who are the victims should sit down. Please sit down. I'm Said Fath Muhami. Lawyer.
Make a sex tape just like Kim. And we're also revealing big Kim Kardashian wedding secrets. Will Kim's mom wear Vera ring just like Kim? This is Showbiz Tonight on HLN News and View.
And this is the Showbiz News Ticker. More stories from the Showbiz Tonight newsroom making news tonight.
Returning the case to the court which had ordered this particular case to be joined together with the case being considered by this courtroom, because that decision to join was wrong, issued from a court whose the judges were being questioned, so they cannot to take any legal order, any legal decision, the decision to join the two cases was justified on the basis, on the 25th of July, that there is a link that cannot be broken between the two cases. The link is a legal concept and definition. The appeals court has concluded that assessing the link is an objective issue, and the court which issued that decision had no right to issue any decision regarding this particular case, because their involvement was in question. You've written this? Yes, I've written this. Yes. Can you write down your requests and submit them? And submit them. I have written them. I've written. Submit them. Yeah, submit them. Regardless, this particular petition, submit your requests, whatever your requests. I only have this request. Any other requests? My colleagues have other requests. This is my only request, and I have it written here. Any other requests? My colleagues, do you have any other requests? We are a team. No, personally, no. I don't have any other requests. Can you take down? The lawyer representing the first defendant decided. Write down his name. He requested that the case be referred back to the court that had referred it to this court. And he submitted a petition explaining the justification for his request. Also regarding the first defendant, sir. Also regarding the first defendant. Who else is representing? Isam al-Batrawi. Yes, excuse me. Regarding the first defendant. The first defendant. I support the request by my colleague Farid Adib, and I urge the court, if it's going to take a decision first, then we have other formal requests and objective requests. The formal requests and the objective requests, or substantive requests, will submit once the court has taken a decision regarding our first petition, which the decision to join the two cases is illegal. I represent the first defendant and the fifth defendant. One word, briefly. A brief word. First, the fact that the trial should be public and be broadcast to all people is also the request of the first and the fifth defendant. Yes, what do you want? What are your requests? That has to do with my request. The second thing, something which you have mentioned, that the request should be written. We will do that. But we will also expose or make our requests public.
As we continue to watch these pre-trial motions being taken care of right now, these administrative roles that are taken care of right now at this courthouse in Cairo, we want to go to CNN's Rima Maktabi in Abu Dhabi, who's monitoring not only this trial that's taking place right now, but of course the regional reaction so far. And one would assume that people within the region, not just the people, but the leaders within the region, are watching this, even though they may not have publicly reacted so far. Rima?
Yes, it's a history in the making. This image that we see on Arab media, Al Jazeera here behind me and Al Arabiya, the two leading news channels in the region, the movers this image that here, we see on this image of Ala and Jamal Mubarak behind me and Al Arabiya, the two this image of Ala and Mubarak and Hosni Mubarak, region behind bars in a cage, Egyptian president that was a hero at the time in the region. Behind bars in a cage in a that some of them would be sleeping during long hours of fasting. However, people have been waiting for this moment. We've been talking to the people in the region, and some of them were skeptic that this will even happen, and it has happened. This moment is as important as the moment that we saw Saddam Hussein being tried courtroom. However, the importance of this trial is that it's a trial by the people of Egypt. No foreign interference and no one from outside Egypt is overseeing this trial.
And while it is by the people of Egypt, Rima, actually get a fair trial.
In the Arab world in general, Egypt, but also across the Arab world, they don't even trust the political system. They accuse the regimes, Arab regimes, of manipulating elections, judicial system, the economy, everything else in the political system. Countries will interfere with the military and stop this trial or make it a quick trial to avoid embarrassment, humiliation. Who's watching today? Definitely the people of the region, and for sure the leaders of the region, like Hosni Mubarak, who stayed 3 decades in the ruling Egypt. Also leaders across the Arab world, except for Lebanon, Turkey, and Israel, across the Middle East. All the rest of the Arab leaders have been sitting in power for years and decades. And their people also question their rule, their legitimacy sometimes, and accuse them of corruption, of also oppressing of protesters. And here we're talking about specifically Syria and Libya. It is indeed the trial of the century for the Arab world.
The interesting thing, we're just also seeing reaction now within Israel as well, as quoted within the Arab news network that you have been monitoring as well, Al Arabiya. The Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, is quoted as saying about Mr. Mubarak, he said, "I respected President Mubarak. He held peace between Israel and Egypt for over 30 years, and that's a great achievement, and I think it should not be forgotten." He goes on to say, and I'm quoting here again, "What happens in Egypt depends, of course, on the will of the Egyptian people, but I think Egypt, I see that the current government, which is a transition government, is committed to peace. They've said so openly, and in practice, this is also taking place." That's again being quoted. That's this is the Israeli Prime Minister, the current Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, being quoted by the Arab news network Al Arabiya. And Rima, I guess just going back again to the significance of all of this, there was a question many had been asking, you know, could this situation have been avoided? Could Mubarak have actually avoided being where he is right now?
He could have indeed. At the end of the day, Mubarak was given many offers to leave before his resignation or even after his resignation over the past month. He is the leader who chose to stay in Egypt. He said on the record, "I want to die in Egypt." Some people question why Mubarak did this, including some Arab leaders who think that a trial like this will jeopardize their legitimacy, and definitely they would have rather seen Hosni Mubarak living somewhere in Saudi Arabia.